5 times you guys have met to come on down. And I'm utterly pleased to be here. This is great.
You're right.
I wish some of the other classes, including my own, class of 54, you know, I'm the old guy here. But this is outstanding. And you have your 50th year coming up this June, so I suggest you really work hard at get more of your classmates together and enjoy each other's company while you can. Because you know we have the Mass in November for the deceased members of the alumni, and the list from of 08 to 09, the list was enormous. Just amazing how many alumni we lose every year. And that being said, and granted that's a long way off, that's next November, you know, keep it in mind as a class. Hopefully everybody here is still going to church. And go to the Abbey with that alumni mass. We memorialize all our deceased alumni, some that you know, some of your class, some that were before you and after you. Keep that in mind. That's always a great thing. And work on your reunion that's coming up. Now, as far as what's going on at Benedictine that you might read about, just to give everybody an understanding of where things are sitting. First of all, we did lose yesterday to St. Ed's. And I was there.
Were you there?
Yeah, I was there. We played the first half like champs, the second half like chumps. But St. Ed's is a powerhouse, and they could take the state title, and Benedictine's basketball team could take the state title in Division II. We're good enough to do that. You read about or heard about the football field that they're building. You know, for the last 20 years or more, we've talked about trying to make Benedictine a campus atmosphere. Now you wonder why you say, well, St. Ignatius this and St. Ignatius that. We found out through our councilman in the Buckeye area there who's helping us that St. Ignatius got let out of that property because it was foreclosed, it was condemned, it was knocked down, and for $1 they bought it from the city. So granted, they're a much bigger school. They got 1,300 students, and their endowment, the dwarfs, our endowment is at Benedictine. But a lot of these things didn't come because an alumnus came out of his pocket with $1 million and said, go buy this property and build a cultural center. A lot of these things they worked out with their councilman. So the councilman in the Benedictine ward has offered the east side of 104th Street to Benedictine free of charge. Now, I used to live at that side of 104th Street. That's at the bottom of the property. And we've had the steering committee has had meetings with him, and we're meeting with the Buckeye Area Development Corporation because it has to go through a different corporation to buy the property and then for $1 sell the pieces of property to Benedictine. This is a fact, this football field. A lot of naysayers think it's a dream, it's never going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm not too sure what the current figure is now. That I think the pledge they have about $900,000. We have to get $1.3 million pledged and $900,000 in the bank, and then they'll start digging. 3 or 4 weeks ago they had 4 pledges for $100,000 each. And they still have about 15 people online who they're going to for $1 million or less, but people who are capable of giving that kind of million. And unfortunately, let's see, who did we just read about in the paper? University Hospital got some money, and this piece of somebody gives $2 million, $5 million. We don't have those kind of people. We may have them, but they're not doing it. But the football field would be used for freshmen games, used for soccer, used for lacrosse, used for practice. We wouldn't have to go up to Woodhill Park, Luke Easter Park anymore. And it's going to happen. And it's going to happen in such a way that there'll be a 4-lane track, and that's enough for dual meets. For a big meet, you need an 8-lane track. Now, the problem with the property that's on 104th Street, it drops off probably, I live there, it drops about 15 feet from the Benedictine property down to the 104th Street property and out to the road. So the thought now is that there be a second practice field built on the lower section. And yes, that'll kick up the ante. The goal is $2.3 million, and that'll kick it up probably closer to $3 million. There's no doubt about it. Plus, the price is going up every year. And with the eventual thought of building the stadium by putting the stands on the west side, that's where 104th Street is, and stands against the hill. You know where the parking lot is. Parking lot's staying. And you go down over the hill, that's where the bus garage is. And they'll relocate the bus garage. Also, what's in the makings is the house next to Benedictine, owned by the Swingles family. When did he graduate?
59, I think.
Yeah.
59, 58, 59.
He's in your class?
Yeah.
Jimmy?
He was.
All right, well, the Swingles family used to live in that red brick house. That's closed, condemned, going to be foreclosure, leveled, and for $1 the city is going to give it to Benedictine. And Benedictine's trying to buy all the houses right along there because they own the duplex that's near the open lot. That's give them about, at least 200-foot frontage and 150 feet deep where they can use for parking or other things. So the question has come up, if they start using the football field for things, where are you going to park cars? They're not going to park on the side streets. No, the parking lot's staying. The parking lot's staying, there'll be more parking. But this is what's going on, and it's going to happen. The city of Cleveland is behind it, the councilman's behind it, the Benedictine monks are behind it, which has always been one of the one of the hard parts is to get the Benedictine monks to say yes, we want it also. So that's a real positive thing that's taking place, and we need all the alumni to support it. You know, can't afford to give, but at least support it. Don't knock it, because the city of Cleveland needs Benedictine where it is. And everybody says, well, why didn't Benedictine move? Well, you know, in those days when St. Peter Chanel was available, Lake Catholic was available, Benedictine didn't have the money. You know, people would come and say, I remember I was a school board president at the time, and they'd say, well, they offered this to you. They offered to you for about $1 million. And then what do the Benedictines do if they move off of East Boulevard with the empty school building and empty abbey? It's not worth anything. Dan Corrigan, who became a judge later, was on the school board at Benedictine when all this was taking place. And they looked right at him because he was the president of the school board in Cleveland. They looked right at him and said, do you think the city of Cleveland would be interested in this for a school? And he shook his head, no, not now, not ever. And that's proved to be true. They never needed Benedictine High School. So the Benedictines chose to stay there. There's a sacrifice, enrollment went down. Now things are starting to turn around. If we can make this a campus atmosphere, then the enrollment will grow back up again, because that's what the families want. That's what the mothers want of the kids. And most of the recruiting goes more so towards the mother than the father, because if you keep the mothers happy, the kids will go there and they'll do a good job. So that's some of what's going on. A lot more going on. There are alumni meetings that are open to all the alumni. Again, I wasn't invited here to make a speech and try to promote these things. But you need to know what's happening, and you have to think positive. And if you don't like what's going on, the only thing we can say is, please, you know, just then bow out. You know, but don't knock it. You know, it's like the people on the what was it? Came up with the last steering committee. They brought to our attention that in the early 1970s there was an article in the Cleveland Press that said Benedictine was closing. It was in the Cleveland Press that Benedictine was closing. That was in the early 70s. So, a few years ago, right?
Was it in the Plain Dealer?
What?
Was it in the Plain Dealer?
No, it was in the Cleveland Press.
Oh, in the Cleveland, when the press just again.
The press liked to write about those things. And here we are, almost 40 years later, and we're still surviving. Got a great principal there. We got a great president, Father Gerard. And, you know, Father Christopher, Abbot Christopher may be a laid-back individual, but he's learning, he's on board.